Hi, welcome to the second segment of Wild Horse Warriors Tours of Sand Wash Basin. As you approach Sand Wash Basin from Maybell, about 15 miles on 318, you'll come across our first indication that you're approaching Sand Wash Basin. Wild Horse Warriors and many of our friends and followers have worked with CDOT to get these signs installed to help travelers be aware that they are entering the herd management area and that there's a possibility that there are wild horses on the road. Along with the LED sign that is about 16 miles out of Maybell, CDOT also agreed to put 4 permanent signs up. 2 of them that say Sand Wash Wild Horse Management Area, one on the west side and one on the east side of the entrance. And then there's also one more sign as we get closer to the basin that actually is a turning sign that indicates where you need to go into Sand Wash Basin. Today we're actually going to take a different route and we're going to travel up County Road 75. 75 is not used very often for a lot of people, and the reason being, typically there are not a lot of wild horses on 75. In the spring and sometimes in the fall, we'll find more wild horses on 75. So we're going to go 75 and then we'll cut across to the main road. After you cross this bridge going northwest on 318, there's a road that turns to your right. It's pretty well hidden if you're not paying attention to it. And the County Road 75 sign is not on the corner, it's back a ways, so it's easy to miss. But if you just cross the river and then turn east immediately after, you should see a sign that says County Road 75. This is the Little Snake River, and it's along the southeastern portion of Sand Wash Basin. There's a very, very small piece of it that actually borders the basin. Fencing on this side, unfortunately, is not wonderful. So it is possible for these horses to get down to this water. Most of them don't, but it is possible. In the drought 2 years ago, this was completely dry. A lot of this water is used for irrigation purposes, so it does get pretty dry even in a typical year. To the east of Sand Wash Basin, you will find the Little Snake River. You can also see County Road 21 in the distance. County Road 21 is on the east side of the Little Snake, and County Road 75 is on the west side of the Little Snake River. A lot of the land that you see is BLM land, but there is private land along the river also. Most of the herd management area is actually above this ridge line. So although a lot of this down below is still BLM, it's not actually considered the herd management area. There's a fence up on top here that is the east boundary. The ridge that we're going to be traveling across is called 7 Mile Ridge. We've crested on the southeast side of Sand Wash Basin on County Road 75. Again, almost everything you can see here is the herd management area. 225 square miles. It's a vast area. I hope you can see in this that the basin is actually starting to turn green. We're seeing grasses grow. it's nice. The wind hopefully isn't going to blow as much today as it was in the last tour that we had. And I think I saw down here in front of us a couple horses. From here it's a little hard to tell. They could be deer or elk even. But I did see something moving down here. So we'll go on down and get a little closer. Look at right there. I think it's deer. Sand Wash Basin is home to many deer and many elk. Sand Wash Basin is a multi-purpose area, so hunting is allowed. It's also a special tag area because we are very fortunate to have large bands of trophy elk. Okay, we're about 3 or 4 miles across the top on 75. And if you look over in the distance, you will be able to see bear's ears. It's a little different angle from here, but there's bear's ears over there. And that is basically the far west boundary of Sand Wash Basin Herd Management Area. I hope you can also see that the basin's getting green. So nice to hear the birds singing and see the grasses growing. So there's our County Road 75 sign. And then if you come around here, we're still in the herd management area. But over here is County Road 66. And if you take County Road 66, watch these signs because you'll have a 66 north and a 66 east, and you want to make sure that you're on the right 66. But if you take this 66 and go east, it will take you actually down to the Little Snake River. You'll cross the cattle guard, and then you will be out of the herd management area. It is one of the areas that we go to look for our out-of-bounds wild horses. Sometimes, if the fence is down, they will get down there. And we've got, 2 or 3 bands that basically live out of bounds down in that area. And I typically go down and check on them 2 or 3 times a year. I've spotted our first group of horses for the day. They're looking like maybe there's some other horses down in that draw. Actually, if we come around over here, there is at least one other wild horse. Where'd he go? There he is. There's actually another one. So by watching the wild horses, a lot of times they will tell us if there's other horses or other people or vehicles in the area by their actions and behaviors. So initially we were watching the three of them, and they were watching me walk down. As I get a little closer, I'm still over 100 feet away from them, which is the BLM guideline. And they started looking over their shoulders. So we looked to our north and we found the other two. And now I walked up on the ridge a little bit to see if there were some other horses on the other ridge or down in a draw that they were following. And look what I found. I don't know if we can see them very well, but there is another whole band over here. And they just kind of popped up out of a draw. And they maybe have dropped down into another draw. I'm not seeing them, so I'll keep watching and see where they went. Maybe they'll pop back up. If you're out in the basin and you find these little white pellets on the ground, you will know that you are in greater sage-grouse territory. The greater sage-grouse in Sand Wash Basin are protected. It's an interesting controversy. Everything in the basin, even the wild horses, are secondary to the greater sage-grouse. I'll attach some links so you'll understand it, but we do not want the greater sage-grouse to go on the endangered list. So even though they're protected and we still have hunting season on them, we have to be very careful of our habitat and make sure that the numbers of greater sage-grouse do not decrease. One of our greater sage-grouse. We're now at what we call Delta Pond off of 75. You have to come down a short 2-track, I don't know, maybe 100 yards, maybe 200 yards, and the road kind of Y's off. It's on the northwest side of 75. This typically dries up mid-June, early July. Sometimes we might get rains that'll hold it later into the summer. A lot of times if you sit here at this pond, you'll see a lot of different bands that are on the west side, or the east side, come into water. We're about 3 miles north of Delta Pond now, and we found a nice little band of wild horses. They're quite a ways out there. I actually think it's Warriors Band, but again, this distance away and with the camera, it's hard to know for sure. If you look up in the top left-hand corner, you'll see Bear's Ears again. And that's where we were on Tour 1. We're across the herd management area from there. We've come down a little two-track, and I found another little band of horses. see over here is the 2-track. If I had been able to keep going, that's the 2-track I would have been on. But as you can see, right in front of me, the 2-track kind of goes down into a wash, and it just kind of disappears. So sometimes these roads are deceiving. Somebody may be coming in on that 2-track the other direction, and there may be a way around it, but right here in front of me, where the normal road is now washed out. There's actually a lot of green grass starting to come up. These guys are wandering around looking for it. You'll see that in this area, there's not a lot of grass growing. And part of that is simply because it's a sandy area. You know, we're not black topsoil. That's not what this ecosystem is. So in most of the area in Sand Wash Basin, vegetation is pretty sparse. The sagebrush actually has a lot of value to it. If you see the brown blossoms on the top, that's what they eat a lot of, and it actually has a lot of protein in it. And then down around it, there's grasses that grow, some areas more than others. But that's why when you hear people talk about the appropriate management level and the AML and how many horses can be per acre, it's all based on the type of soil, the amount of water we get, and the native vegetation that is presently growing in Sand Wash Basin. For Sand Wash Basin and many of the horse management areas that are in desert or semi-desert areas, you're looking at 35 acres per animal, and there's a science behind it, you know, and it's for most people when they're looking at animal allotment sizes and how many animals can be on an acre. A horse is 1 unit, a cow-calf is 1 unit, and for sheep, it's actually 5 sheep per unit. They look at the type of soil, they look at the amount of water, the amount of rainfall, and the size of the hoof prints. So there's damage done when you and I, or the horses, or the sheep, or the cows walk through the rangeland, and that's all taken into account, and that's how they come up with that. And it's per animal per month, and for wild horses it's 12 months of the year. This is a little better picture of the blossom on top of the sagebrush. And then if you look closely back behind it, we have a different type of sagebrush, or chico. And if you'll look, you'll see all those thorns on there. This is something we all are very, very cautious of. Not only does it hurt if you rub up against it or step on it, those dadgum thorns, they'll pop a tire. So you don't want to back up over it. You really just don't want to drive on it. So we are are still on County Road 75 headed north. And I just wanted to show you that here's our east boundary. That fence line separates the herd management area from other BLM land. Occasionally we'll see wild horses on the east side of that fence, and when they are on the east side of that fence, they are out of bounds. They are no longer protected by the Wild Horse and Burro Act when they are out of bounds. Here's just another view of the basin. We're getting a little higher in elevation, and we're still headed north on 75, and now we're looking west. And again, everything that you see out there until you get to that far mountain ridge is part of Sand Wash Basin, the herd management area. So these horses have a huge amount of land available to them. But again, you have to look at the type of land it is, how rocky it is, how sandy it is. There's adobe clay out here. You know, it's just not Midwest black topsoil ground that these horses are trying to live on. So again, we're looking east off of 75, and there's the herd management boundary fence, and you can see some of our wild horses outside of the boundary. That's probably Bronze and his band. He's been out of bounds for at least a year. Kind of hangs out in this area. I've just spotted 3 more of our wild horses out of bounds. Not sure who these guys are. So I'll walk up and get a little closer to them. And you can see, it looks like we need to come out and do a little fence work. The elk and deer come through here, and they kind of break the fence down. And so it needs some repair work. They don't normally do too much damage, but there is some areas where they have. Our wild horses typically do not jump fences, but in low areas, they might hop over a part of the fence that's down. So I'm standing in what's known as a wing for a wild horse trap. And you can see over here where they have woven wood together, tree trunks and branches to make a fence. And then the fence would go all the way down to the bottom down here, and way down there is actually a corral, and it's also made of a lot of wood woven together. These traps were used, this is the other side of the wing, these were used by the ranchers in the area before the Wild Horse and Burro Act to help regulate the population of our wild horses in Sand Wash Basin. Here's a little better view of what is left of the fence, what it actually looks like. You can see there's a game trail or a horse trail that has come right through the center of it and has kind of broke it down. I can't even imagine how long it took to make this. They're very amazing. It's just mind-boggling how much time it took to put this together. There's several of these in Sand Wash Basin. If you do come across one, please leave it alone. Don't take this wood down and use it for fires or for any other purpose. It really is of historical value, and we want it left for our kids and their kids. We're now on 75 at the junction that says 66N. So we're going to turn west here and go across the basin. And we'll basically end up in the middle of the basin on County Road. We're on 66N, and I found a small band of horses here at this pond with the two little boys doing a lot of playing. We're still on 66N, and this is what we refer to as the Rock House. There's probably some really fun history, but nobody that I have talked to actually knows who built this or when it was built. We assume it was maybe a sheep herder at some point that came through here, but we actually don't know. We're still headed west. You see there's one of those stud piles in the middle of the road. And over here, you'll see what appears to be a dam that was built at some time. It may just be a catch for drainage. We don't really know the history of that either. We're now on the west end of what started out on the east side as 66N, but when you end up on the west side, it's 2084. About halfway across, the road changes, but there isn't a sign that tells you that. So at this junction, if we went west, we would end up either turning north and going up to Lookout Mountain on 67, or turning south and going down to the main entrance on 126. It's another one of their confusing junctions. So if you come right over here, you'll see another road, and this is actually 67, and it's Horse Loop 2. So on our next tour, we'll do Horse Loop 2, and we'll talk about some of the other pieces of our conflicts and the positives and just what it is that makes up the herd management area of Sand Wash Basin. Thanks. Have a great day.